Thomas Frank is a creator with over 3 million subscribers on YouTube, best known for his deep dive tutorials and productivity systems. He's built one of the most world's popular Notion templates called Ultimate Brain, and he also has launched a Notion-based app called Flylighter, which helps you easily capture stuff into Notion without a hassle. With a mixture of content, templates, and software, Thomas has become one of the most trusted names in productivity. And today, we're browsing the app stack that he uses and how he manages his routine, and we'll even be diving into his hidden gem app in this video. All apps that we mentioned will be linked in this video, but let's dive into our first question with Thomas. So Thomas, tell me a little bit about how you structure a typical daily routine. What does that look like for you?
Right now, what I mainly do is teach people how to use Notion to organize their lives and, to a lesser extent, their businesses. I'm a bit more interested in personal life optimization than I am in team things, but I do help business owners as well. We make premium Notion templates, and when I say premium, I mean active support, meticulous documentation. We treat it like software with updates, a bit higher end than I think most templates you see out there. And then speaking of software, we also have a software tool called Flylighter, which is a browser extension that allows people to quick capture almost anything they want to Notion. We have a screenshot tool in there. We have a custom-built HTML parser. You can select elements, you can grab whole articles, bring in like CRM data from LinkedIn, trying to basically solve one of my biggest pain points in life. Get so many tabs in my browser. Allow me to capture the relevant information from those tabs and get them into the tool that I'm using and clear my tabs, as well as capture ideas when I have them. So if I am focused on anything, I'm focused on helping people stay organized and quickly capture information and ideas when those things hit them. Yeah. Contrary to what some people probably believe about me from my YouTube content, I'm not all hustle culture all the time. So most days I do get up and I make coffee and I read first. Right now I'm reading the book Unreasonable Hospitality by, I think it's Will Guidara is his name. I may be butchering the last name there, but he is the, I believe, general manager at 11 Madison Park in New York City, which has been rated like one of the top restaurants in the world. So right now I'm reading that book, and I'll usually have coffee with that. My cat loves that time in the morning because she gets to sit on me. Then if there's a meeting for the business, I do the meeting. Otherwise, it's either lifting or cardio. For me, that is a arcade quality Dance Dance Revolution machine that I've built in my basement. For the most part, I can run, and I'm a decent runner, but I much prefer to play a fun video game instead of just plodding on a treadmill or going for a very long run. So that gets rid of, or that gets, I guess that ticks off the reading and the either cardio or weightlifting boxes. And then work can be a lot of different things. Sometimes I'm working on content creation. That's what I'm doing right now. We're working on a new Notion tutorial. So right now I'm in the practice the build phase a few different times, so I can then go into the filming phase and do it very fluently. I'll pass that off to my editing team once that's ready. Some days I am doing design work or QA or testing on Flylighter. Some days I'm working on our upcoming course and community for people that want to learn Notion more deeply. So the way I see it is my business has 3 pillars. First is content. The second is what we call education, which actually kind of is a holding container for both our upcoming paid educational and community products, as well as our templates, which we kind of haven't seen as a development thing. And then there's the actual development arm, which is primarily Flylighter, but also consists of some pipe dream workflows, which are almost like apps that I provide to my audience. This is a weird thing, but a lot of people out there use tools like Zapier to do no-code workflows. I build actual code-driven actions in a very similar platform called Pipedream, which allows me to share those as templates. That's part of my development arm because I've got a lot of customers who use those workflows, and I do active software development on those personally. So I used to live in Denver, Colorado. Last year, we moved to a small town in Iowa, somewhere around Des Moines. And the most interesting thing that I learned is my wife and I are way more social here than we were in Denver. I'm going to coin this as the 15-minute rule, which is to say that in Denver, all of my friends lived at least 15 minutes away, either by car or whatever you have it. Here, all of my friends live well under 15 minutes away from me. So probably 2-3 times a week, we're out hanging out with friends. Also often watching movies with my wife, or sometimes I'm a big musician as well. So I'll just end work and play guitar for 2 hours. So between all that stuff and then your typical adult things, cooking dinner, keeping the house clean, like I actually have a pretty easy time switching off when the day's over at this point.
Today's video is kindly sponsored by Sunsama. You can find those guys below, and it's a powerful way to manage your weekly plans.
I have complex feelings on AI because one of my other businesses that I'm a part of is Nebula, the creator-owned streaming service. So a lot of AI that has to do with like image generation and things like that are kind of not cool in my book. But when it comes to like coding or doing research, getting additional perspectives in large language models, I think those are really cool use cases, and I do quite a lot of that. So on the development side, I tried to avoid this as long as possible, but I'm now using Cursor to help me with development. And for that, I was just trying to avoid it in the beginning because I started learning in 2022 to code, and I wanted to build up some sort of base of personal competency in programming. And I felt that leaning too hard on large language models would cause me to stagnate and never actually learn anything for myself. Now, because I wear so many hats and I don't feel that the best use of my time would be to go fully into life as a developer, I've kind of let some of the AI models into my process. So when I'm, say, working in Pipedream, developing actions for my customers, I'm using Cursor to speed things up, and that's quite nice. And then I do also use usually Claude to do things like, hey, give me an alternative perspective on this, or can you give me like a crash course on programming sprints, was something that I was looking into it the other day.
So obviously we know you use Notion, but explore your entire app stack for us, Thomas. It would be really interesting to see all of the apps you use in between and why you use them in what context as well.
Notion is the app that runs my life more than anything else. I spent years developing a system called Ultimate Brain. It's one of the things we sell as a template. I use that every single day. That is my task manager. It is my daily planner. It's my note-taking system. It's my pseudo Goodreads for book notes, my recipe tracker. Like everything is in there except for like my calendar and email pretty much. And a few things that Notion's not good at, which I won't spoil that because that's my hidden gem. I start my day in Notion. I use a daily planning sort of worksheet template that I've set up that hooks into my task manager so I can very easily check off the tasks that I'm going to do. This is actually a really nice system I created. There's a second checkbox. It's like, I will do this task today, so I don't have to rely on due dates. And that gives me like a nice separate section of my daily agenda, which is pretty sweet. And then I can order them and give them like different energies if I want to, or if I'm feeling like particularly distracted in a day, that helps. So Notion is a big one. Alongside Notion, there is the tool that my team and I developed called Flylighter, which is our browser extension for capturing articles and research and CRM entries. I use that all the time, so I will put that on there, not just because it's a plug. And then there is an iPhone app that I use, which kind of ties into Notion in a roundabout way. So I spend more time with my voice to create text than typing on the computer. This is both because I like to spend time outside, walking my dog, or if I'm riding my bike somewhere or driving somewhere, I get ideas all the time. And because I suck at typing on phones. Like, I don't know if I have fat thumbs or what, but I just make a zillion typos a minute. So there's an app that I use called RecUp. It's RecUp. It's kind of an old app. It is the only app I have found that is a voice recorder where you open it up and it can start recording immediately. And when you hit stop, it will automatically upload that file to Dropbox. So what I've done is I use that app to get a voice note into Dropbox, and then my Pipedream workflow that I called Notion Voice Notes kicks off, turns that into text, and then I just finished up a major rewrite of the code there, which will allow for custom AI prompts. It'll give me like main points, action items, all that good stuff. And then I get a Notion note with transcript, summary, and the audio note as well too, because the API will let you upload. Now, I know there are some newer apps that let you do this kind of thing. When I built the first version of this workflow, there were really no iPhone apps that would let you do this. Now there's things like Granola. If you are paying for Notion's business plan, I believe, you get the in-app AI meeting notes feature, which is actually pretty sick. But still, for me, if I want like a specific type of prompt to be run and I want to say record my voice for a full hour with the screen off, that RecUp app does that for me. And that's how I actually record the first versions of many of my videos and how I record my talks as well that I give at conferences. Just kind of pace around a hotel room, brain dumping, and I know I'm going to get every word captured in a transcript, which is really nice. On my computer, going over to, or I guess keeping on the thread of using my voice to sort of type, there's an app called Mac Whisper. It is an absolutely wonderful app. I think it is possibly the coolest application of AI that I've seen, even though it's kind of a simple thing. So Mac Whisper is a Mac-only app that'll allow you to drop in an audio file and transcribe that to text using the Whisper model. I use that to create my captions for YouTube videos. The most important feature that it has is this little dictation feature where you can hit a toggle and you can say whatever you want, and it'll just paste it into any text field on your computer. There are other ones for Mac. There's like Super Whisper and Whisper Flow. Mac Whisper is a one-time only purchase, and I think there's even a free version that lets you use that feature. Again, that's the coolest thing in AI, and I say this as somebody who has dealt with repetitive stress injuries in my hands and who knows people that have even worse RSI. The ability to type with your voice is freaking amazing. A while ago, I was like trying to see if there was a Windows version, and I couldn't find a version for Windows that could do the same thing. There was like one that we tried and like flagged a Trojan in my antivirus. So I was like, okay, that's not cool. So I found a GitHub project called Whisper Writer, and this was my first application of Cursor and vibe coding. I don't know Python, so I just forked Whisper Writer and I was like, hey Cursor, can we add some stuff that I want? And I made my own like insane fork of Whisper Writer that brings this feature to Windows. And I added some really cool extra features, like a version that'll send what you said to an AI model to prompt it. So you could be like, tell your computer like, oh, what's the definition of gracile? And it'll just print the actual definition because it's getting the response from the model and pasting it. So that one is available on my GitHub, but I have absolutely no guarantees that it'll work because it's a vibe coded mess. I'm waiting for someone to make like a polished version for Windows because I want to have a recommendation. But yeah, Mac Whisper is amazing on Mac OS. Another tool I use the crap out of on Mac OS is Keyboard Maestro. What's a good pitch for what Keyboard Maestro can do? I guess it lets you create macros. So it could be a string of characters you type. It could be a keyboard shortcut. It could be a Stream Deck button you hit, any number of things. And then it kind of just gives you like almost a no-code engine full of tons of different actions to do almost anything you want. And you can even bring in like an AppleScript action or a JavaScript action, so you could even write code. So a few things, I can bring up my Keyboard Maestro macro list just to get a reference for what I do with it. I've got one that will automatically print out the FFmpeg command to compress an MP3 file, which I do quite a lot. I have one that will send the contents of my clipboard to Claude and use it to either clean up the text with Claude or to prompt Claude and then paste the response into wherever I have my cursor. I've got really simple ones that'll like strip all the formatting out of formatted text and paste it as plain text, since some apps actually don't have that by default. I've got some window management stuff. And then the big one is a ton of text replacements. So if I like type EMP, it'll print out my personal email address. A lot of that stuff is doable in Raycast, but there was a point where Raycast's text snippet app was like kind of broken. And that was my first reason for trying out Keyboard Maestro. And Keyboard Maestro has a sync feature, which is free. So I just kind of went all in on Keyboard Maestro. And while I do use Raycast, I don't use it for text snippets because all my snippets are just in Keyboard Maestro now. I do use Raycast though. I think I use that mostly for controlling Spotify and a little bit of the AI prompting, maybe a few other things. I have a post on my site called my macOS shortcut and macro library, and there's a bunch of apps I use on there. Oh, a fun one is Audio Hijack and Loopback. So I don't know if I don't think I chose the right device in this call, but if you combine Audio Hijack and Loopback, you can take the input device, like your microphone, you can send that through VSTs, like a compressor or anti-reverb plugin or whatever you want, and then you can pipe the output from the VSTs back into whatever app you're using. So you can basically get pro quality audio from your mic in any app, which is great if you're like on Zoom or here on Riverside. And I wanted that because I do a lot of Loom recordings, and I wanted my Loom recordings to sound almost as good as my YouTube videos, instead of sounding way worse. I make so many Loom recordings for our documentation. So for our templates, anytime there is an update that we make, I shoot a how-to on how to do it for people who already have the template. I also shoot like a lot of, if we get a good question in our customer support community, I'll shoot a how-to on whatever the question's answer is, but I'll try to make it not only specific to the person who asked it, I'll try to make it into documentation. So then that becomes a page on our website in our template docs. And I use Loom just, it's so quick to make the recording and to auto upload it, but I want it to sound good. So I use the audio hijack and loop back trick to make my audio sound like as good as possible. And I guess I'll give an explicit mention to Loom as well, because I use the crap out of Loom to make screen recordings. And then I also use CleanShot X for screenshots and smaller screen recordings, since you can copy the video file to your clipboard and then paste it in Slack or what have you. For Flylighter, we use GitHub for issue tracking. So I'm in there all day, every day, creating issues. Combine that with CleanShot to say, take a screen recording of the issue, pastes in GitHub, uploads almost instantaneously. And then I use Keyboard Maestro. I've got a little, FLP is Flylighter Public's latest version, so I can type the version of the app without having to go 0.12. whatever it is. On macOS, there is a third-party app you can get called AltTab. It brings AltTab from Windows into Mac, which is more useful than you might think, because Mac actually doesn't have anything that good for switching apps. And one thing I like about it is it has multiple different keyboard shortcuts that you can define. So if you do, I guess it would be Option Tab on a Mac keyboard, you will switch between apps. But if you do Option Backtick, you'll switch between windows of the same app. So if I have multiple Notions open, I can do Option Backtick to very easily cycle through them. And I usually have 3 or 4 different Notion windows open. Developing templates usually have like reference material on one monitor, whatever you're doing in the other monitor. And then there's another fun one called Clop, C-L-O-P, and Clop will automatically compress images and screen recordings that go to your clipboard or whenever you save them. That one I have to turn off sometimes because it has a tendency to try to compress huge video files that come from my camera. But when I'm taking screen recordings, it can be nice, especially for Discord, because Discord lets you only have 5 megabyte long files. Oh, we use Missive because we have a team. So I've got 4 people who are full-time or close to it, and then 2 VAs who are part-time. And we were on Front, which is also a pretty cool platform for collaborating. And then Front was like, hey, we're going to stop syncing everything you do in Front to Gmail, which I didn't like. So I switched over to Missive. Missive is awesome if you're running a team. We pay out the nose for it, so I don't think individuals are really going to need it. But the ability to tag teammates and assign teammates to specific emails is really nice. I do use Strava. So if I'm doing outdoor cardio, like an outdoor run or a bike, I do use Strava for that. And then I don't use it right now, but I will give mention to another app. I believe it's called Turnkey Coach. And this app will not be useful to anybody who just goes and downloads it, but there is a coaching service that I used to basically like go through my whole weightlifting journey called Barbell Logic. I got paired up with a remote coach, and they basically would give me programming, and then I'd film my sets and they'd critique my videos. So I started using that in 2020, basically right when COVID started. And I went from 185 pounds to 215. All my lifts went way up, and I stopped injuring myself in the deadlift. Yeah, so I do recommend, like, if people are getting into lifting like I was, getting a coach of some kind is useful, and they have a pretty nice app for that. Audible, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, so I'll put that on there. Because I'm a guitarist, I used Fender Tune to tune my guitar. That's one app that doesn't leave my home screen. And I think everything else that's on my home screen is really not worth mentioning. I did make another pipe dream workflow that captures tasks to Notion with my voice. I made that myself. And that is actually kind of cool, because if I say the project the task should go to, I wrote a bunch of code that'll pull my projects from Notion, and it'll run some like algorithmic things on the text of the project I said to see if I have a project that's similar to. And it doesn't have to be an exact match. It's like, is it a 90% match or more to an existing project? If so, apply that project. If not, just put it in the inbox.
So finally, I want you to reveal the hidden gem app that you think is worth telling everyone about.
The hidden gem is my other wellness app. It's an iPhone app called Heavy, spelled H-E-V-Y. It is the best workout tracker that I have ever found. It's got a great Apple Watch app that will track your heartbeat, and it's got a great exercise database. Out of all the ones I've tried, it is the easiest to enter in your data as you're working out. It does a great job of remembering what you did for sets and reps the last time you did a routine. Can't really say anything but good stuff about that app. It's really, really nice. And that is one thing where I tried to build that I tried to build a Notion workout tracker, mostly just because I wanted the challenge. I was like, let me see if I can make a good one. And Notion has some particular limitations which I think are sort of inherent in all of these no-code builder platforms that just make it not good for workout tracking. So I'm like, cool, I give up there. I'm going to find a dedicated app for it, and Heavy is fantastic.
So a big thanks to Thomas for coming here on the channel to dive into his stack. I think it's really cool to see how he processes systems and how he's taught himself so many different things like coding, and how he's building his own app ecosystem as well to help improve how he already helps his own audience. So really fascinating to see, and if you did want to subscribe or check out Flylighter below, you can find it linked in the description too. So a big thank you. If you do like these videos, you can jump over to toolfinder.co to explore plenty more tools and resources, and I look forward to helping you with more choices for apps in the future. Thanks very much, and I'll see you all very soon for a next episode of Stacks.